Welcome back, my friend. Before we begin, tell me where you're listening from tonight. Drop your city or country below. And if you enjoy these stories, please subscribe for more. Now, settle in, adjust your pillow, slow your breathing, and let's drift softly into everyday moments. Shared kitchens, tram bells, careful cuesware, Soviet life unfolded in quiet, steady rhythms. You wake inside a communal flat, one room for the family, doors thin as paper for sound, yet walls thick with history, holding whispers of winters endured. The air tastes faintly of soap and tea, quilt layered with coats presses warmly, as if the night itself were reassuring you that small comforts still matter. In the corridor, a single yellow bulb hums, parquet worn smooth by decades of slippers. And somewhere, a kettle clicks, promising warmth before conversation remembers itself. The bathroom queue has begun already. Slippers shuffle, a polite knock, a patient sigh, towel in hand. You practice calm, learning patience before breakfast even starts. Pipes answer with groans older than calendars, water turning from cautious, cool to brave, warm, and you wash quickly, eyes closing as steam forgives the hour. In the shared kitchen, kettles hiss along a crowded stove, tin cups wait respectfully, and the dance of teaspoons measures time more kindly than clocks. Your mother pours strong black tea, a single spoon of sugar dissolving like a promise, and warmth travels outward, steadying hands, brightening the narrow room. Bread will come soon. Until then, buckwheat porridge thickens, wooden spoon turning slow circles, and the window fogs hiding the courtyards gray with breathing glass. Coats buttoned, scarves tucked, stairwells echo softly as neighbors descend. Tobacco and cabbage drifting past the peeling banister, the building exhaling yesterday's stories into morning. Outside, drizzle settles over stone. A tram sighs to a halt, doors opening like careful parentheses, and bodies gather inside, familiar in the choreography of crowding. Through fogged windows, palaces partitioned into flats slide by. Stalinist towers touch the low sky, and posters insist on cheerful quotas, while faces prefer practicality. The bakery queue curls politely along the pavement. You join, cupping breath into your hands, listening to rumors of oranges traveling north like tiny sunlight caravans. When loaves arrive, steam escapes as if relieved, crust crackling a little song, and you tuck bread under your arm, warmth seeping through wool to bone. A neighbor nods, shares a quiet joke about weather, and for a moment the queue feels like family improvised, imperfect but determined to keep one another standing. The tram rattles toward factories, schools, and offices, carrying a hush of thoughts, unsure where to land. Outside, puddles memorize tires, and pigeons supervise with patience. At work, machines hum their metallic prayers. You slip into your task, hands remembering faster than mind, and production becomes a rhythm steadier than any anthem. Break arrives with tin cups and weak tea, steam shaping a small holiday in the air. Someone shares a biscuit, another shares a story about a radio. Posters on the wall promise radiant futures. You prefer the next 5 minutes, the comfort of heat, the chuckle at a joke, the bread crust saved for later. Paperwork stacks like neat snowdrifts, forms in triplicate drifting toward invisible offices. You sign your name carefully, a small raft carrying you across bureaucratic waters. Afternoon leans against the windows, paler than morning but kinder. And the factory clock measures progress not by glory, only by a hand's width closer to evening. School children rattle home on the tram, satchels bumping knees, chalk dust still clinging to their sleeves. Multiplication tables echoing faintly as stations pass without complaint. Your stop arrives with the gentle jolt you expected. Stairwells gather footsteps, and you climb slowly, letters in your pocket, bread still breathing warmth against your coat. Inside the flat, the samovar sighs like an old friend. Tea leaves bloom, glasses fog, and conversation starts cautiously, finding shape the way dough finds bread. A radio plays a waltz, thin but sincere. You tune the dial like you're polishing memory, and the room accepts music as another essential ration. Supper is simple: cabbage soup, potato, a sliver of sausage saved from last week, and black bread sliced carefully, each piece proof that sharing multiplies flavor. Someone mentions cinema night newsreel first, then the comedy everyone knows by heart. Laughter will come easily, even if the plot arrives on schedule. The corridor smells of apples stored in bags, soap drying on a cord, and wet wool steaming gently. Neighbors greet one another with nods that mean everything. A child's skates clatter somewhere, hope rehearsing for winter. The building answers with friendly creaks, a wooden ship carrying families through seasons of ordinary weather. Later, laundry lines stretch like quiet arguments across kitchen corners. Steam rises, windows weep, and clothespins hold firm, small clamps keeping the day from unraveling. You mark tomorrow's errands in a notebook, queue for kerosene, trade coupons for butter, repair a loose boot heel, return the borrowed novel with pressed wildflower. News arrives through whispers and laughter. Who changed departments, who got a larger room, who found oranges, who will host chess next Thursday, whose aunt knows a tailor. Someone knocks with a deck of cards and a smile. Chairs scrape gently, tea refreshed, and the evening settles into companionship that asks for nothing extravagant. The deck shuffles like soft rain. Stories shuffle too. A train delay, a market surprise, the neighbor's cat, the new song whistled carefully so walls won't listen. When guests leave, slippers whisper down the hall. You rinse glasses in lamplight, porcelain clinking quietly, and the clock agrees to be merciful to tomorrow's waking. Night draws curtains on the courtyard. Puddles mirror a handful of stars, and somewhere a tram glides empty, practicing for morning while the city learns to rest. In bed, blankets carry a modest gravity. Breath slows, shoulders soften, and you travel toward sleep along familiar stairwells lined with kindly, unremarkable details. Morning returns with radiators ticking, one brave bubble in the kettle, and the scent of bread rising from a neighbor's parcel, reassuring in its democratic generosity. You stretch carefully, feet finding slippers, and the corridor greets you against same bulb, same parquet, same distant kettle-proof. That constancy, too, can cradle a person gently. The queue for the bathroom forms again, neighbors exchanging sleepy nods, and you join with soap in hand, learning patience the way others learn arithmetic. Steam clouds the mirror, fading your reflection into a ghost. Yet even this feels comforting, as though morning understands your need to appear slowly. Back in the kitchen, the stove sings faintly, kettles rattling like cousins in conversation, and porridge thickens once more, promising steady warmth before stepping outdoors. Someone leaves early for the factory, boots loud on stone, door closing gently to keep the baby next door from crying. Kindness is another kind of ration. Outside, the air holds the first bite of frost, pavements shining faintly, and you wrap your scarf tighter, grateful for wool that remembers many winters already. At the tram stop, people gather in silence, breath joining in small clouds, each person carrying thoughts that belong only to them, yet feel shared by everyone. The tram arrives, crowded but dependable, its doors sighing open. You step inside, steadying yourself with a strap, and the city resumes its quiet, forward motion. Windows fog quickly, blurring the world beyond, but you recognize familiar turns, bridges and factory gates, places stitched into memory more firmly than any calendar. Workers press close, shoulders brushing, eyes downward, conserving energy for hours ahead, and the rhythm of wheels on tracks becomes a lullaby for waking minds. The conductor moves through the carriage, punching tickets with a practiced hand, the click marking time as reliably as the clock above the city square. At the factory, gates open wide, guards nodding without fuss, and streams of workers file in, each one another thread in the day's vast industrial tapestry. Machines wait like hungry beasts, levers and belts poised for motion, and once switched on, their chorus fills the hall, voices rising in metallic harmony. Your task repeats, hands moving steadily, shaping parts that will travel far beyond this hall. Though your own world remains contained within its humming walls, colleagues glance briefly, exchanging few words, conserving strength. A nod here, a muttered joke there, enough to remind you that camaraderie exists even in repetition. By midday, the horn signals break. Tin cups appear again, bread crusts shared, and weak tea once more becomes the bridge between exhaustion and continuation. Conversations bloom in fragments, a rumor of shoes arriving, a cousin's letter, the health of a child, each piece adding to the quiet quilt of survival. Afternoon wears on, machines steady, fatigue heavier, but the rhythm continues, as though the room itself refuses to allow despair to gain a foothold. At shift's end, coats are donned, scarves tied, and footsteps echo in stairwells, tired yet satisfied by small achievements, invisible to propaganda but visible to each worker. Outside, dusk has arrived, lamps flickering awake, and you follow the stream of neighbors home, footsteps overlapping like verses in a familiar evening song. Courtyards glow faintly with laundry still hanging, icicles forming from forgotten drips, and children chase one another, laughter briefly warming the cold gray walls. Inside the flat, supper simmers slowly, cabbage sweetened with carrot, bread sliced thin, and tea waiting once again, the day's faithful companion from beginning to end. The radio shares music between news bulletins, violin strings rising, and for a moment the small kitchen feels larger, as though beauty could stretch walls apart. A knock at the door brings neighbors sharing salt, a spoonful borrowed, a smile offered, another reminder that survival here is always a communal affair. Stories unfold around the table, quiet tales of cues, small victories, a scarf repaired, a child praised at school, nothing grand, yet everything important. Later, candles are lit, their glow softening the peeling wallpaper, and the room feels warmer simply because shadows have been persuaded to step back gently. Laughter rises again, cards shuffled, bread dipped in jam, and night settles kindly over the building, giving permission to rest without shame or worry. Outside, trams clatter faintly, still running for late workers. But indoors, slippers shuffle slowly, doors close gently, and silence begins its careful stitching once again. You write in your notebook, recording weather, tasks, and gratitude for the day's bread, believing memory deserves to be preserved, even in the simplest handwriting. Blankets await, heavy but familiar, and as you lie down, the rhythm of Soviet life wraps itself around you, steady, imperfect, yet oddly reassuring. Morning calls once more, footsteps echoing, kettles rattling, and the corridor awakens like an old friend, predictable in its rituals, comforting in its constancy. Again, you join the bathroom queue, patient, soap in hand, listening to pipes speak their ancient language, a chorus reminding you that endurance itself is victory. Tea is poured, porridge stirred, sugar rationed carefully, and the day begins with flavors familiar enough to steady the hand and soothe the unsettled spirit. Outside, frost clings to windows, the tram rings its bell, and workers gather with quiet purpose, shoulders brushing, faces set, yet hearts still capable of warmth. The tram carries you past posters declaring progress, faces smiling broadly, promises painted boldly, though passengers inside prefer silence, holding their own truths privately. At the bakery again, the queue wins patiently, breath clouding, boots stamping, and loaves emerge warm, their fragrance forgiving the waiting, turning routine into ritual. Neighbors trade news of ration cards, market surprises, rumors of fruit, and each word feels heavier than headlines, proof that survival depends on whispers more than speeches. Back at the flat, samovar hisses, cups clink, and conversation resumes like yesterday never ended. Threads picked up naturally, weaving community across thin walls and crowded spaces. The day proceeds once more. Work, school, chores, and small joys folded into the fabric. Simple acts transforming scarcity into endurance, endurance into meaning. Evening arrives, stairwells glowing faintly, supper bubbling gently, and voices gather again. Neighbors leaning on door frames, children laughing, and music leaking softly from radios. Sleep waits patiently, knowing you'll come soon, guided by warmth, stories, and the steady hum of life, lived not in slogans, but in details worth remembering. You breathe slowly, listening to pipes knock, radiators hum, and stairwells creak each, sound another lullaby, another reminder that life continues in ordinary but precious ways. Outside, snow begins to fall, softening rooftops, quieting courtyards, and even the trams seem gentler, wheels cushioned, bells muffled, as though the city wants you to rest. In dreams, corridors stretch endlessly, stairwells turn into forests, and kettles whistle like distant trains, carrying you softly through the landscape of memory and imagination. The night deepens, silence grows, and your body releases tension, shoulders sinking, breath slowing, until the day dissolves, leaving only peace behind. And so the rhythm continues. Morning cues, evening gatherings, bread, tea, kindness, fatigue, laughter, patience, of it woven into a fabric called life. A fabric not glamorous, not easy, but resilient, steady, human, stitched together by millions who endured, adapted, and found comfort in rituals repeated daily. Tomorrow will bring the same. Footsteps in corridors, kettles on stoves, queues in bakeries, trams rattling, posters smiling, and people quietly living in between. And that, my friend, is how sleep should come. Not suddenly, not harshly, but gently, the way Soviet mornings yielded to evenings, the way routines folded into rest. You adjust your pillow, feeling the weight of history lighten into drowsiness, and understand that memory itself can be a lullaby if told carefully enough. Tea, bread, Laughter, cues, footsteps, stairwells, radiators, and silence, all of them wait patiently, not only in history, but also in dreams, where they soften into peace. You drift deeper now, the communal flat growing distant, its corridors turning into echoes, its lamps fading into stars, its sounds melting into whispers. Sleep welcomes you kindly, wrapping you in its quilt, one stitched with patience, resilience, and the ordinary beauty of lives lived without spectacle. Tomorrow's story will arrive, as all tomorrows do, but tonight belongs to rest, to breath, to the quiet rhythm that carries body and mind gently away. Close your eyes, let your thoughts scatter softly, and know you are safe within this moment, sheltered by the gentle embrace of sleep's steady arms. The Soviet Union fades, not in politics or slogans, but in the quiet details of daily life, leaving behind fragments now folded carefully into your dreams. Morning will return, but until then, you rest unchallenged, unhurried, surrounded by the tender rhythm of history, transformed into lullaby. Sleep deeper, my friend, carried by tea and bread, by footsteps and stairwells, by laughter shared and silence honored, until all fades into softness. The night holds you kindly, whispering patience, promising renewal, reminding you that life, however ordinary, carries within it the power to soothe and sustain. And so you rest, history quiet beside you, memory humming faintly, the world slowing, and dreams opening their doors one by one. Good night, dear listener. May sleep carry you gently, the way trams carried workers home, the way tea soothed kitchens, the way patience held lives together. Morning light glances off frosted panes, neighbors stir once more, slippers shuffle, kettles rattle, and the rhythm of beginnings repeats itself gently like a well-rehearsed lullaby. In the kitchen, steam curls upward, mingling with rye breads, sent toasted carefully, while tea glasses clink softly against saucers, sounding like a friendly conversation from another room. Someone hums a tune from the radio, faint yet persistent, comforting in its repetition, reminding everyone that even in scarcity, melodies endure and brighten life's gray corridors. Children tug at scarves, eyes heavy with sleep, while mothers straighten collars and fathers search for gloves, hidden, always misplaced, yet always found before morning tram rides. Outside, the street breathes fog. A horse-drawn cart rattles past, wooden wheels echoing, a rhythm older than factories, persisting beside the growl of trams and buses. At the tram stop, conversations rise softly, rumors of fruit deliveries, cinema screenings whispered, complaints about leaking boots, and sighs about winter lingering longer than expected again. A woman adjusts her headscarf, sighing at drizzle, while a man folds his newspaper carefully, tucking it beneath his arm as the tram bell rings. Inside the carriage, condensation blooms across windows, hiding the city's gray face, and passengers lean close together, silently, conserving strength for the endless hours that always await. You count the stops automatically, familiar corners sliding past, each one a marker in the quiet map of daily life, stitched into memory by simple repetition. At the factory gates, workers file in, papers shown without pause, and the day begins again. Machines waking, belts spinning, voices raised against the steady industrial din. Your hands find their rhythm quickly, shaping metal, cutting, polishing, while the hall fills with music of labor, steady, relentless, indifferent to time's quieter demands. A colleague leans over, murmuring about shortages, bolts delayed, paint rationed, solutions improvised, because work continues anyway. even when plans falter or supplies never seem to arrive. Break arrives with tea once again, weak brew in chipped cups, yet comfort persists, and warmth steadies your hands for the endless tasks stretching ahead. Conversation turns to schools, strict but patient teachers, homework piling high, and dreams that one day, perhaps, university might open a door toward something brighter. Posters line the walls, smiling faces, proud workers, banners proclaiming quotas achieved, though real pride rests quietly in surviving another day with dignity intact. Afternoon drifts forward, the sky outside dimming, lamps flickering within, and fatigue settles across the hall like a blanket everyone must carry together. At the horn's signal, coats are pulled tight, scarves knotted firmly, and the march home begins. Boots echoing across pavements, slick with half-frozen rain. Shops beckon with queues already forming, shelves half empty, yet patience stronger than frustration. Waiting itself becomes an unspoken skill woven carefully into everyday existence. A delivery of oranges arrives, rare and precious. The line stretches long, but people smile despite the cold, holding the promise of sweetness unseen for months. You clutch your share carefully, their scent like sunshine hidden in pockets, treasure more valuable than rubles, more warming than promises written upon posters. Back at the flat, voices rise as neighbors return, children rushing through stairwells, laughter chasing fatigue away, and the building breathes alive again with sound. Supper is simple but filling. Potatoes boiled soft, herring sliced thin, bread passed hand to hand, tea poured endlessly, each cup proof of quiet resilience. The radio hums with news of harvests and achievements abroad, but listeners half listen, preferring instead the familiar comfort of family voices and gentle laughter. Cards appear again, jokes whispered softly. A neighbor's cat wanders in uninvited, welcomed anyway, its purr weaving seamlessly into the room's fabric of warmth. Someone mentions cinema tickets, a comedy screening tomorrow, and the room brightens instantly. Laughter promised in advance is almost as nourishing as laughter itself. Curtains are drawn, candles lit, and night feels softer, shadows less insistent, as though even darkness respects the need for peace within these fragile walls. You write another line in your notebook, nothing dramatic. Bread bought, oranges secured, boots mended. Small victories deserve their place as much as triumphs. Outside, snow begins to fall, flakes slow and deliberate, covering cracked pavements with temporary kindness, making even broken corners appear whole, at least for tonight. Children press noses against frosted windows, delight spilling in whispers, already planning tomorrow's sled games, dragging worn boards from corners where they've slept since last year. Sleep gathers again. You lie beneath blankets, listening to radiators tick, pipes sigh gently, and the world soften into silence beyond your window's glass. Dreams arrive quietly, carrying courtyards glowing with lamplight, stairwells smelling faintly of apples, and streets humming with laughter, not bound by quotas or endless queues. Morning greets you gently, light muted by clouds, slippers cold on the floor. Yet the routine's familiarity steadies you, disguised quietly as a comforting promise. Breakfast is tea again, porridge simmering, bread sliced carefully, sugar measured sparingly, conversation limited to what truly matters, warmth, endurance, and the promise of persistence. Outside, workers gather with newspapers folded beneath arms, Gloved hands clutching bags, faces solemn but not unkind, moving together toward another day's labors. The tram rattles faithfully, bells marking corners, and the city slides past, history written in walls, present carried quietly in tired, silent passengers. At the office, typewriters clatter endlessly, pens scratch across paper, and forms multiply, each signature another stitch in the vast bureaucratic fabric binding everyone together. A clerk offers tea from a chipped mug, and you accept gratefully, knowing even weak tea is strong enough to remind you of belonging. Lunch is served in the cafeteria, soup thin but hot, bread reliable, conversation circling around ration cards, neighbors, and the uncertain weather outside. Posters of cosmonauts smile proudly from walls, reminding workers that dreams stretch beyond factories, though feet remain planted firmly in queues and stairwells. Afternoon stretches long, papers signed, voices hushed, but small kindnesses persist. A pencil shared, a door held, a smile exchanged without question. The walk home feels longer, snow deepening, lamps glowing dim, yet the sight of your building brings relief, its peeling paint familiar as family. Supper waits again. Cabbage, soup, bread, laughter shared, neighbors gathered, voices weaving comfort from scarcity, proving community stronger than shortages or silence. Children whisper stories beneath blankets, pretending to sleep, while parents smile knowingly, choosing not to interrupt dreams, traveling further than any tram could reach. The radio hums quietly, violins swelling softly, and evening feels smoother, like a gentle hand calming the rough edges left by another long day. Sleep returns once more, steady and calm, wrapping you warmly, carrying you gently past worry, into dreams where bread is plentiful and lines vanish. Morning comes with fresh frost etched across windows, patterns drawn by night's patient hand, reminding you that beauty endures even in the simplest corners. Tea is poured, bread sliced thin, laughter rising softly in the kitchen, and neighbors greet one another with nods, saying, "Yes, we continue together." Outside, the city wakes again, smoke curling from chimneys, tram bells chiming, and rhythm returns, the same song repeated, yet new in its persistence. At the post office, letters wait. A cousin's handwriting, news folded carefully, promises tucked inside envelopes, smelling faintly of ink, hope, and distance. You carry the letter home, hands warming against paper, and read it slowly, savoring every word as though it were a rare and precious gift. Neighbors knock politely to borrow salt, return a saucepan, share a rumor of deliveries, and the evening fills with conversation that makes walls seem thinner. Supper is humble, but the company rich. Bread, pickles, laughter, spoons, tapping bowls, steady percussion, 2 stories told with no hurry at all. Afterward, someone brings out an accordion, notes filling the stairwell, neighbors pausing in doorways, smiling at melodies too familiar to ever grow old. Children dance clumsily, slippers sliding, cheeks glowing, and parents watch with tired but joyful eyes, remembering their own youthful steps within these same hallways. The music fades, slippers shuffle away, and silence returns kindly, leaving behind echoes of laughter and the warmth of companionship held dearly. You sit by the window, notebook open, recording another day. Bread secured, letters received, music shared, and gratitude written carefully in the margins. Outside, snow thickens, muffling the city, transforming streets into soft corridors where footsteps vanish quickly, leaving only silence and the glow of distant lamplight. Sleep finds you easily, carrying you through memories into dreams, where stairwells become forests and trams transform into rivers, flowing endlessly onward into quiet. Morning begins again. Slippers cold, water boiling, neighbors greeting one another softly, and rhythm continues, imperfect yet steady, reliable in its ordinariness. Tea steams in the kitchen, bread waits for slicing, porridge bubbles gently. A hymn of nourishment, sung daily without fail, reassuring in its repetition. The queue at the bakery stretches long, but voices remain kind, jokes whispered, and bread's warmth justifies every moment of patience under gray skies. Children play in snow, cheeks glowing, mittens damp, laughter spilling freely, proof that joy survives even in the coldest and grayest of winters. At work, machines hum again, workers lean close, sharing news between tasks, and the hall fills with sound of progress measured in patience. Break brings weak tea and biscuits, shared carefully, each bite reminding you that generosity is often larger than the food itself. Posters beam proudly from walls, but pride rests elsewhere, in bread, warmth, laughter, kindness, all quietly heroic, all ordinary and extraordinary at once. Evening descends early, lamps flicker on, stairwells echo again with footsteps, voices returning, carrying fatigue softened by familiar walls and expected routines. Supper steams, laughter rises, and the day folds into night with rituals as steady as seasons, turning and returning faithfully. Children whisper goodnight beneath blankets, parents share quiet words, and the building settles peacefully, heartbeat steady, walls listening like old friends. Outside, trams make their final rounds, bells softer, as though even machines understand the importance of evening's rest for weary passengers. Sleep arrives slowly, blankets heavy, breath deepening, and you surrender willingly, trusting tomorrow to bring challenges, patience, and the same quiet joys as before. Morning frost greets you again, lace etched on glass, slippers waiting faithfully beside the bed like guardians of routine. The bathroom queue is shorter today, neighbors smiling faintly, patience easier when the air carries hints of warmer weather approaching. In the kitchen, tea steams, porridge thickens, bread cracks softly on slicing, crust singing like a secret shared with those present. Outside, the tram groans awake, tracks icy, passenger silent, but rhythm continues faithfully, familiar and unbroken despite hardships. At work, tasks repeat, machines roar, and hands move with practiced certainty, finding dignity in repetition and strength in persistence. Break time arrives, tea poured into chipped cups, biscuits crumbled and shared, laughter rising softly, survival expressed like music without instruments. Posters beam, workers endure, and the hall fills again with music of labor, imperfect yet steady, familiar as breath itself. Evening brings supper, neighbors gathering again, conversation weaving warmth from scarcity, each shared word another thread holding fragile lives together. Candles glow softly, laughter rises, night gathers, and hearts prepared gently for sleep once more within walls that remember countless evenings before. Blankets wait faithfully, dreams stir slowly, silence gathers kindly around the building, tucking every resident into deep rest beyond quotas or queues. Outside, snow falls once more, streets glistening, courtyards hushed, and the city breathes slowly beneath its comforting winter quilt. Inside, you drift toward sleep, body heavy, mind quiet, heart steady, carried by familiar routines into the safety of gentle oblivion. Tomorrow will arrive, as always, bringing cues, footsteps, familiar routines, yet you will rise patiently, finding dignity and resilience in the quiet fabric of repetition. For now, you rest beneath sturdy blankets, warmed by remembered laughter, lulled by ticking radiators, surrendering worries, allowing sleep to carry you deeper than thought itself. The Soviet night stretches endlessly, steady and calm, becoming a lullaby of silence, weaving stairwells, kitchens, dreams together, reminding you that rest itself is resistance. You breathe slowly, chest rising and falling like tides, dreams approaching gently, carrying echoes from stairwells, corridors lit dimly, promising warmth inside fragile walls. Sleep deepens further, body softens beneath heavy quilts, day dissolves into shadows, memory untangles quietly, heart steadies itself, silence surrounds faithfully, becoming your dearest companion. Morning waits discreetly beyond frosted glass, horizon pale, but tonight you belong fully to darkness, sheltered in its arms, protected against demands that tomorrow carries. History hums softly like a distant engine, surrounding you without burden, asking only stillness, granting permission to become gentler, smaller, safe within ordinary timelessness. You surrender completely, trusting dreams to carry you farther than trams or trains could reach, into landscapes where rest is abundant, worries unable to follow. Silence holds corners of the room. Walls listen patiently. Pipes whisper lullabies, older than memory. Body loosens gladly, relearning the simple language of peace. Stars shimmer faintly beyond frosted windows, distant, indifferent, strangely comforting, reminding you that even vast skies cradle lives built tenderly from small routines. Breath slows further, shoulders unclench, muscles surrender burdens, as though time itself pauses, granting you the privilege of dissolving into deep, nourishing quiet. Dreams rise carefully, carrying you into imagined courtyards glowing with lamplight, stairwells echoing laughter, kitchens alive with clinking glasses, all softened by warm nostalgia. The Soviet Union fades from slogans and speeches, leaving behind fragments, bread crusts, slippers, kettles, cues, laughter, all ordinary yet profoundly resilient. Sleep enfolds you, kindly, wrapping memory within gentle fabric, larger than history, warmer than slogans, truer than ideology, reminding you humanity endures through ordinary rituals. Night deepens further, silence absolute, spirit drifting like snowflakes scattered over rooftops, weightless, timeless, untouched by shortages or struggle, preserved only in rest. You drift like a leaf upon calm water, freed from deadlines, floating into landscapes beyond reason, guided only by comfort, not duty. The world waits patiently outside your window tram stairwells, bread lines, but tonight you belong only to sleep, shielded by silence and warmth. Good night, dear listener. May your dreams unfold gently, filled with tea, bread, laughter, stairwells, radiators, and resilience, the quiet comforts that carried millions toward peace each night. Morning whispers through frosted panes, neighbors stirring softly, kettles humming steadily, porridge thickening patiently, and the faithful rhythm begins again, steady and familiar, carrying every household forward into another ordinary day. You pull on wool slippers, not your scarf, breathe winter air seeping beneath the door, and step into stairwells echoing with footsteps, greetings, and careful, practiced patience learned slowly. Outside, snow rests on rooftops, tram bells answer dawn, and queues already form at bakeries. Voices low but kind, patience binding strangers together against shortages, cold, and worry. At the bakery, warmth gathers like sunlight, steam rises from crusts, cloth rustles, and smiles appear, despite waiting, as loaves pass hand to hand like earned treasure, deservedly. The tram rattles toward factories, windows fogged by breath, bodies pressed gently together, silence conserving strength, and streets glide past carrying memories stitched carefully into corners and doorways. Gates swallow workers, machines awaken, belts worry steadily. Repetition resumes without fanfare, dignity discovered again in constancy, progress measured in tightened bolts, repaired parts, and hours endured bravely. Break time arrives with thin tea steaming biscuits divided evenly. Laughter flickers between fatigue and companionship nourishes everyone more completely than calories, promising strength enough for afternoon hours ahead. Posters beam with victories, smiling faces painted larger than life. Yet workers treasure quieter triumphs, bread secured, boots patched, coal delivered, children warmed, and neighbors helped without hesitation. Afternoon lengthens, shoulders ache, but camaraderie cushions weariness, voices threading between machinery, and the shift becomes a chorus, steady and imperfect, stronger together than any single voice could be. The horn releases footsteps, stairwells glow with laughter, and doorways bloom with warmth as dinners simmer and neighbors trade stories and salt. Supper is cabbage soup and potatoes, herring sliced, thin tea poured generously. Conversation lifts the ceiling, weaving comfort from scarcity, forgiving the day's demands with gentle, ordinary kindness tonight. Children build cities under blankets, inventing avenues without queues, while parents listen softly, allowing dreams to expand past stairwells into imagined summers bright with fruit and uncomplicated mornings. The radio plays violins, news, whispers, quotas, and everyone half listens, preferring the reliable truth of spoons against bowls, the clink of glasses, and familiar, forgiving laughter nearby. Candles bloom quietly, shadows soften peeling wallpaper, radiators tick patiently, and silence returns kindly, carrying the building toward sleep, humble and safe within its winter shell tonight. Blankets cradle tired bodies, breath deepens, dreams arrive like snow, covering roughness, and for several hours, history loosens its grip, allowing hearts to wander to warmth and mercy. Morning finds slippers faithfully waiting, kettles sing, porridge thickens, and neighbors nod in passing, sharing strength invisibly, carrying one another into queues, workshops, classrooms, and careful conversations patiently. At the post office, envelopes tremble with foreign stamps, handwriting smells of distance, and each word is swallowed slowly. Nourishment sweeter than fruit, stronger than sugar, warmer than brandy. Machines roar alive again. Voices climb above their thunder. Tasks repeat, and survival hides inside constancy, not announcements. The real plan is patience, practiced carefully, together, every day. Break time tea steams in chipped glasses, biscuits soften, jokes surface briefly, and the room feels lighter, as if humor itself were coal shoveled into every tired furnace grate. Posters glow with certainty, but victories happen elsewhere, in repaired boots, steady wages, warm rooms, and letters answered. Pride lives quietly where hands and kindness meet consistently, daily. Evening descends through stairwells, supper steams, children's voices echo, and walls seem thicker when laughter stitches them, turning ordinary kitchens into fortresses stronger than scarcity's wind. Candles flicker along tabletops, shadows sway, radiators hum, and the building exhales together, granting permission to rest, to set burdens down beside boots and folded coats patiently. Blankets press firmly over shoulders, dreams rise slow and careful, and night gathers everyone into one hush, kinder than quotas, warmer than posters, deeper than slogans. Thankfully, frost etches patterns on the window, tea perfumes the room, slippers stand ready, and the cycle resumes, demanding little brilliance, only faithfulness, patience, and small, repeated courage. Courtyards crunch beneath careful footsteps, tram bells test the air, and people move together like migrating birds, guided by seasons, work whistles, and the promise of bread. Queues curl around corners again, complaints soften into humor, and rumors trade like currency, yet kindness remains the common wage, paid generously in nods and shared warmth nightly. Loaves finally arrive, fragrant and heavy, cloth rustles, coins clink, and someone jokes about sunshine hiding inside crusts. Everyone laughing because hope tastes briefly like oranges again. Carriages sway, windows sweat, hands grip rails, and passengers balance silently, thinking of soups, boots drying, homework, and the small light left burning for late arrivals. Machines return to rhythm, tools lift and settle, shoulders memorize distances, and dignity gathers again at the edge of repetition, where finished parts reflect stubborn, ordinary pride. Tea warms fingers, numbed by handles. Biscuits break cleanly, and whispers ripple about deliveries, concerts, movies. Companionship proves stronger than shortages, filling cracks with shared brightness everywhere. Slogans shine, evening paints stairwells golden, kitchens glow like hearths, and supper bowls steam, transforming scarcity into resilience, weaving comfort from steam, conversation, and steady, dependable presence nightly. Candles tilt within saucers, shadows travel, the radio softens, and silence returns like snowfall, gentle and thorough, giving even anxious hearts permission to become still tonight gently. Blankets gather weight, breathing slows, and sleep enfolds the building, ferrying every apartment toward imagined shorelines, where bread waits warm and laughter rings without hesitation kindly. Dawn scratches at frosted glass, slippers answer, kettles rattle, porridge hums, and neighbors share the stairwell's narrow theater, rehearsing patience for another performance of endurance together. Snow loosens from rooftop edges, tram bells count the hour, and the pavement remembers thousands of steps, learning every stride, every hurry, every moment of reluctant partying yesterday. Typewriters clatter like rain, papers multiply, and pens etch quiet rivers across forms. Bureaucracy hums, yet people persist kindly, carrying one another through its labyrinth of lines. Break arrives, tea breathes steam, biscuits scatter crumbs, and someone tells a story that folds the room in laughter, leaving weariness blinking, surprised and slightly lighter afterward. Murals claim tomorrow confidently, but tonight's triumph is smaller. The apartment warm, the letter answered, the shoes drying, the child asleep, the neighbor thanked without ceremony, Shadows lengthen across stairwells, supper bowls empty, and conversation lingers, testing future plans gently, because fragile hopes prefer soft voices and rooms that remember them kindly. Candles lean as drafts wander, radiators murmur, and silence threads every doorway, mending frayed edges with quiet, until only breathing and distant trams remain tonight gently. Blankets nest around tired bodies, dreams climb slowly, and night, patient as a grandmother, guards the rooms, smoothing worry's hair until it sleeps without protest forever. Tea softens throats, and resolve reassembles itself, brick by brick, inside everyone who survived yesterday tonight, gently. Courtyards hold their breath, snow relents, and boots resume their measured chorus, guiding families toward factories, offices, classrooms, and the bakeries faithful. Fragrant altar today, gates open, sirens complain, machines gather tempo, tea brightens hands, biscuits divide neatly, eyes sparkle briefly, and the room recovers its courage, proof that companionship multiplies strength faster than shortages subtracted anywhere. Painted slogans endure shining. Nevertheless, victories are counted in bowls refilled, coats mended, windows sealed, and letters posted, where persistence writes outcomes brighter than declarations themselves. Evening unwinds the building, kitchens glow, stairwells hum, and supper arrivals ring doorbells like bells for vespers, calling everyone home to warmth, bread, and forgiving conversation. Candles steady their wicks, shadows loosen their grip, and the night gathers carefully, promising that rest will come if welcomed politely and given enough blanket nearby. Quilts remember every winter, shoulders remember every burden, and sleep arrives trustworthy, escorting hearts across dark water toward coves where scarcity forgets the way tonight gently. Another morning breathes, slippers march, kettles sing, porridge thickens, and neighbors exchange nods that say, without words, we will endure together again, patiently and completely today. Frost stitches silver along railings, bells rehearse familiar notes, and footsteps answer time's call, weaving resilience across courtyards, landing lightly where yesterday's prints already faded earlier. Cues reform beside the bakery, jokes wander, scarves brighten, and when warm loaves finally appear, the street inhales, grateful, as if sunlight had returned unexpectedly again, and the city passes like a film, every frame a lesson in stubborn, ordinary, shared endurance learned. Workbenches remember every palm, machines answer every switch, and hands repeat knowledge learned from elders, keeping the line moving when manuals fail and deliveries stall unexpectedly. The tea is thin, but courage thickens. Biscuits crumble, but laughter holds, and companionship fills the gaps. No plan anticipated, mending the day invisibly tonight gently. Portraits shine above the clock. However, true pride lives nearer. A repaired latch, a warmer coat, a shared umbrella, and soup delivered discreetly to a tired neighbor today. Twilight carries supper, smells through corridors. Doors open, voices mingle, and walls seem closer, stitched by conversation into one long table. None must leave hungry tonight. Candles nod agreement. Radiators hum lullabies. Blankets lift like wings. Dreams lean forward, and sleep ferries bodies quietly toward harbors where mornings feel generous, and bread, miraculously, is already sliced tonight gently. Dawn lifts the curtain, kettles rehearse, porridge applauds, and neighbors bow to patience again, stepping into stairwells with scripts memorized and hearts still willing tonight, gently. Snow returns, soft as forgiveness. Bells count time. Declaring endurance constructs the bridge between today's effort and tomorrow's bread more convincingly than speeches. Work wakes, metal answers, sparks bloom, and repetition lowers fear, because motion breeds courage, and tasks completed are lanterns hung along an otherwise dim corridor ahead. Steam curls from tea, crumbs scatter like confetti, and a joke lands perfectly, granting 7 minutes of real brightness, a holiday hidden inside ordinary minutes gratefully. Painted faces promise victories. The scoreboard of tenderness quietly beats the wall's announcements persistently. Evening braids, stairwell echoes with kitchen clatter, supper bowls parade across tables, and gratitude, understated and stubborn, sits down among plates, blessing every bite gently tonight. Candles trace halos on ceilings, radiators whisper, and the building finds its heartbeat again, steady and slow, inviting every restless thought to loosen and sleep peacefully. Quilts grow heavier pleasantly, eyelids surrender, and dreams unfurl maps toward orchards, shorelines, marketplaces bright with fruit. Where patience spends coins nobody can counterfeit convincingly. Morning steadies the room, slippers align. Tea consults sugar, and courage, dressed plainly, opens the door, leading everyone back into weather, cues, and necessary kindnesses together. Tram windows bead with breath, somebody hums, and the city keeps its promises. Movement, work, return, all three stitched together by bells, rails, and careful timing daily. And the floor learns new scuffs, each mark another signature from workers writing names across the day's steel surface. Thin tea, shared biscuits, a borrowed pencil. Suddenly, the room remembers it is a family, and fatigue loosens slightly, defeated by generosity, pretending to be small. Slogans persist above the clock. Nevertheless, pride stays local. A repaired hinge, a successful delivery, an elder escorted, a child praised for stubborn handwriting practice, proudly. Lamps bloom in kitchens, and laughter rises like steam, earning warmth honestly from stories traded across narrow tables, gratefully. Candles lean toward faces. Shadows nod approval, and silence arranges the chairs, inviting rest to speak first, then dreams to finish every unfinished sentence gently tonight. Blankets remember names, pillows learn worries, and sleep settles negotiations, finally, granting both sides peace, while snow edits the city into a softer, cleaner draft overnight. Morning arrives attentive, kettles agree, porridge thickens responsibly, and neighbors, veterans of repetition, salute patience again, marching toward bread, work, and whatever mercy appears today. Rooftops glitter faintly, bells collect minutes, and boots rehearse the old choreography, stepping where resilience placed chalk marks long ago, arrows pointing faithfully forward again. Switches click, belts tighten, gauges decide, and the line moves, a river of practiced gestures, bearing usefulness toward docks, where households unloaded gratefully each evening. Tea performs its miracle again. Biscuits volunteer, and someone tells a memory that feels like an extra blanket tucked around the room until shoulders loosen happily tonight. Portraits watch from high perches. However, victories accumulate below. Jars labeled neatly wool redarned patiently, windows sealed carefully, and neighbors escorted safely through ice together. Twilight arranges spoons, kitchens steam, stairwells share music, and conversation builds invisible bridges between doorways, strong enough for heavy days to cross safely homeward. Candles steady the room, radiators mentor the air, and silence signs the truce, promising to guard dreams while the building sleeps with unwavering, companionable patience. Tonight, gently, quilts anchor Bodhi's breath finds rhythm, and dreams plant gardens in courtyards, promising seedlings tomorrow, if only mornings remember how to be gentle again, tenderly. Dawn polishes windows, slippers volunteer courage, kettles announce possibilities, and patience ties everyone's laces, sending them outward with small blessings stitched into pockets tonight, very gently. Tracks answer wheels, bells answer time, and the city answers hunger with movement, coordinating strangers into choreography that rescues usefulness from winter's stubborn teeth tonight, gently. Machines confess their needs, workers oblige, materials arrive late, yet persistence fills the gaps, a mortar mixed from humor, stubbornness, kindness, and thoroughly learned hands patiently. Tea smuggles warmth into fingers, biscuits cooperate, jokes collect smiles, and noon feels survivable again, the room briefly lighter, as if windows admitted extra daylight today. Painted banners still glitter. However, real honor remains domestic, beds made tightly, soups seasoned wisely, floors scrubbed bravely, and letters answered thoughtfully before lamps are dimmed carefully. Evening releases shoulders, stairwells become rivers of footsteps, kitchens receive everyone kindly, and bread, sliced carefully, hums like music beneath knives, steady and reassuring tonight, gently. Candles practice steadiness, radiators keep counsel, and silence pats the table, inviting gratitude to sit, reminding hearts that enough can occasionally feel like plenty tonight, gently. Blankets invite courage to rest, eyelids agree, and dreams light lanterns along secret paths, escorting sleepers toward shores where no one waits in line tonight, gently. Morning repeats its script, kettles whistle, porridge approves, and neighbors trade glances, meaning yes, again, together, until the stairwell itself believes in their promise tonight, gently. Frost compliments the rails, bells ring permission, and trams oblige, ferrying quiet hopes toward workbenches where usefulness grows slowly, one practiced gesture after another, tonight, gently. Switches learn obedience, tools decide honesty, and the floor records perseverance in success. Repetition, though humble, builds cathedrals of reliability, visible to patient eyes tonight, gently. Tea resumes its ministry, biscuits portion fairness, and laughter files the edges from fatigue, so hands can hold tools without trembling before afternoons longer demands patiently. Portraits keep watching, but ledgers of tenderness near the kettle outnumbered proclamations, borrowed scarves returned, onions shared, and chairs offered to aching knees first tonight, gently. Stairwells echo vespers, kitchens sing quietly, and stories round their corners, smoothing grief until it fits between sips, allowing warmth to finish the conversation kindly together. Night lowers gently, candles blink farewell, blankets complete their circle, and sleep carries households beyond shortages into a harbor where bread, laughter, and courage wait patiently tonight. Morning glides into courtyards, frost crisp beneath boots, slippers exchanged for shoes, kettles silenced, and neighbors march outward together, carrying invisible agreements of endurance stitched into every careful step. Tram bells count minutes reliably, windows fog quickly, silence fills the carriages, yet companionship survives wordlessly, shoulders pressed lightly, reminding passengers they are never entirely alone today. At the bakery, queues fold like ribbons, scarves brighten the line, and when steam lifts from loaves, it feels like dawn arriving a second time. Bread carried carefully beneath coats warms hands better than mittens. Neighbors smile softly at one another, sharing victory measured not in posters, but in the crust's fragrance. Factories hum like engines of destiny. Switches snap, tools clatter, sparks bloom. Yet persistence, not ideology, keeps the lines alive, each movement echoing trust in practiced patience. Workers bend shoulders faithfully, repetition knits the hours. Dignity survives not in speeches, but in finished parts, polished bolts, and usefulness waiting quietly within warehouses. Tea rescues tired hands, biscuits crumble. Laughter lifts fatigue, camaraderie fills spaces, bureaucracy leaves empty, proving humanity stitches every plan tighter than slogans can ever manage. Portraits beam brightly from walls. However, victories glow elsewhere. Children fed, bread secured, windows mended, and quiet peace achieved at day's end when supper bowls are filled. Evening gathers stairwells, gently, supper, perfumes, kitchens, laughter softens fatigue, and conversations weave invisible nets, catching every heart before it falls into despair tonight, gently. Candles lean steadily against drafts, shadows climb, silence lays a gentle quilt, and the night gathers patience, inviting everyone inside walls to rest safely. Blankets embrace shoulders, breathing deepens like tides, and dreams ferry tired spirits to imagined markets, bright with fruit, laughter, and abundance, without cues tonight, gently. Morning shivers through windows, porridge thickens faithfully, slippers wait near, kettles whistle patiently, and neighbors rehearse lines of endurance, carrying one another toward factories, schools, bakeries, and endless responsibilities. Courtyards sparkle beneath frost. Footsteps arrange themselves into choruses, and tram bells accompany the city's waking symphony, steady and imperfect, but enduring despite shortages and broken promises. Machines roar like restless choirs, sparks fly across steel, and repetition guides hands through hours, each gesture memorized, each movement a note in survival's endless composition. Tea breathes courage into the morning. Biscuits divide evenly, and jokes shared between workers remind everyone that humor is bread for the soul, needed daily. Posters promise abundance. However, pride lives closer. Boots patched carefully, coats handed down lovingly, letters written thoughtfully, and smiles offered honestly during weary evenings with family gathered. Twilight colors stairwells softly, supper simmers gently, and neighbors return, voices blending through walls, forming lullabies stronger than the slogans fading outside in cold air. Candles sketch halos across ceilings, radiators sigh, and silence extends its arms, inviting households to let go of burdens and wander slowly into sleep's gentle territory. Blankets fold warmly around limbs, pillows whisper promises, and dreams construct hidden gardens where patience plants seeds that shortages cannot uproot. Blooming abundantly beneath unseen skies tonight. Morning announces itself softly. Slippers are waiting. Kettles hum again. Porridge stirs. And patience, dressed in wool and steam, prepares households for another performance of resilience faithfully. Tram windows fog, passengers sway. Boots stamp rhythm, and silence carries everyone through streets, past posters, into destinations where survival hides beneath repetition and companionship. Bakeries hold their faithful lines. Rumors ripple like wind, and when doors open, steam rises like prayer, answered with bread heavier than coins, warmer than wool, priceless. Factories awaken, belts whirl, sparks jump, repetition steadies, and every hand finds dignity in usefulness, not propaganda, producing the quiet victories that sustain life honestly. Tea restores the body. Biscuits soften smiles. Laughter repairs fatigue. And companionship fills hunger that no ration card can measure, keeping courage upright throughout long afternoons daily. Posters beam endlessly above machines. However, victories shine brighter within kitchens. Soups stirred, potatoes mashed, mittens dried, and children tucked safely into beds surrounded by kindness. Evening lowers its curtain. Stairwells glow with supper. Neighbors trade salt, sugar, and stories. Companionship strengthens walls against winter winds and shortages more effectively than bricks themselves. Candles flicker, radiators hum, silence kneels patiently, and the night asks nothing but surrender, allowing weariness to dissolve into rest's timeless sanctuary tonight. Quilts tighten their embrace, eyelids sink, and dreams sail away, carrying tired workers and families into landscapes beyond scarcity, where abundance is ordinary and laughter uninterrupted. Dawn brushes rooftops with frost, kettles whistle softly, porridge rises in pans, and neighbors march again, stitching their strength together invisibly into morning's fabric. Tram bells echo faithfully, passengers huddle quietly, and silence, thick with patience, accompanies them through frozen streets, carrying small hopes like coins hidden carefully in pockets. At work, machines resume their chorus. Repetition folds the day into measured patterns, and dignity hides again inside polished metal, completed tasks, and persistence learned deeply. Tea returns like salvation. Biscuits fragment gently. Laughter sparks again, and companionship lifts spirits beyond shortages, teaching that shared humor can stitch endurance tighter than plans. Murals proclaim progress, yet true victories glow elsewhere. Bread won, neighbors warmed, children smiling, coats patched, and pride lingers within quiet kindness offered freely, not loudly. Evening hushes stairwells. Supper glows from pots. Laughter rises softly, and fatigue loosens its grip, replaced by comfort passed hand to hand like bread itself. Candles teach shadows to dance. Radiators teach silence to hum, and night gathers everything fragile, carrying it safely toward sleep's quiet chamber tonight, faithfully. Blankets memorize burdens, pillows cradle doubts, and dreams sketch impossible summers where fruit grows freely, queues vanish, and patience is rewarded with laughter beyond shortages. Morning renews routines, slippers align, kettles declare readiness, porridge thickens, and neighbors exchange glances, meaning yes, again, together, into another day, written in persistence. Tram bells keep time, footsteps echo softly, Passengers carry newspapers, satchels, thoughts of bread, and silence binds them, companions in endurance, stitched invisibly by shared waiting. Bakeries breathe steam into courtyards. Queues curve endlessly. Patience arranges everybody like notes on staves. And loaves finally arrive, welcomed like sunlight divided evenly across palms. Factories tremble with effort. Sparks leap across metal. Repetition hums. And survival is measured not in propaganda, but in bolts tightened faithfully by hands that never falter. Tea smooths away fatigue. Biscuits fracture kindly. Laughter breaks the monotony, and companionship lifts every worker higher than quotas can measure, preserving courage across long afternoons. Posters beam proudly, yet victories remain unpainted. Soup shared, mittens mended, neighbors helped, children comforted. These daily triumphs become a hidden revolution, stronger than propaganda itself. Evening warms, stairwells with supper smells. Conversations echo like songs, and scarcity dissolves briefly into laughter, a strength more nourishing than bread or slogans. Candles lean into shadows. Radiators whisper softly. Silence takes its place at the table, inviting weary hearts to surrender themselves gently to rest's forgiving embrace. Quilts sway gently across shoulders. Breath becomes slower, and dreams weave tapestries of abundance. Fruit piled high, summers long, winters softened, patience rewarded at last beautifully. Dawn breathes frost against windows. Slippers answer the call. Kettles hum their anthem. Porridge bubbles patiently, and households prepare again for another faithful rehearsal of endurance. Trams carry crowds through gray streets. Silence binds passengers tightly, yet hope hides within scarves, mittens, and nods exchanged between strangers who understand the same weight. Bakeries gather lines longer than courtyards. Jokes are whispered, rumors traded, and when bread emerges steaming, the entire block exhales relief, warmth, and gratitude invisibly shared. Work resumes beneath factory lights. Machines roar insistently, shoulders bend obediently, and persistence preserves dignity. Each repetition marking survival far more clearly than posters painted proudly. Tea refreshes trembling hands. Biscuits soften hunger. Laughter loosens fatigue. And camaraderie binds the weary into strength, reminding them tomorrow is possible through kindness offered daily. Portraits beam grandly, yet victories whisper quietly. Children warmed, coats mended, potatoes stored, letters written, and neighbors helped. Real triumphs secured gently against the chill of scarcity. Evening lights, stairwells like lanterns, supper steams, stories flow, and companionship weaves resilience more effectively than policy, carrying families beyond shortages into comfort earned daily. Candles glow gently, radiators hum steady tunes, and silence restores balance, guiding weary bodies toward the soft threshold of sleep's forgiving arms. Tonight, kindly, blankets press firmly over hearts. Dreams scatter seeds of generosity, and imagination carries families into gardens blooming with sunlight, laughter, and endless supplies of bread tonight, gently. Morning steadies itself again, slippers wait, kettles whistle like trumpets, porridge answers with steam, and patience guides every step into another cycle of endurance practiced faithfully. Tram bells chime reliably. Passengers cluster together. Silence shields them from fatigue, and invisible bonds of endurance weave themselves tighter between strangers, unspoken but powerful. Bakeries host familiar lines. Breath fogs the air. Children cling to scarves. And when bread appears warm, it feels like the world remembering mercy again kindly. Factory whistles pierce the air. Belts resume their rhythm. Sparks scatter like stars. And repetition builds strength more honestly than any promise carried on posters. Tea blesses hands with warmth. Biscuits divide evenly. Laughter glimmers. And companionship becomes the true engine driving productivity, sustaining courage more reliably than quotas could ever measure. Murals sing progress. However, victories hum elsewhere. Boots patched, mittens dried, neighbors helped, soup simmered. Real accomplishments arrive quietly, never announced, yet remembered more faithfully. Evening collects footsteps in stairwells. Supper perfumes kitchens, and conversations rise softly, knitting resilience inside walls, turning fatigue into laughter shared honestly. Candles tilt against drafts. Radiators sigh relief. Silence softens every corner, and night gathers gently, allowing weary souls to release burdens and drift quietly toward sleep. Quilts fold around shoulders. Breath finds its rhythm, and dreams sail boldly into futures where patience bears fruit, where abundance is natural and laughter flows easily. Morning returns. Frost etches. Windows, slippers take position. Kettles whistle. Porridge thickens, and households align once again with routines stitched faithfully across countless yesterdays and tomorrows. Tram bells call commuters forward. Windows blur with condensation, and silence hums, reminding each passenger they are part of a shared endurance, larger than any single body. Bakeries open doors. Steam escapes like triumph. Queues fold forward, and bread is received with reverence, handled gently as if it were sunlight captured in crusts. Factories gather energy. Machines roar alive. Sparks leap eagerly, and repetition resumes, painting dignity across tired bodies that persist beyond slogans into real usefulness daily. Tea softens fatigue. Biscuits crumble gently, and jokes scatter light across the table, making the afternoon easier to endure than any plan could have promised. Posters shine proudly, yet truth resides closer. Children embraced warmly, coats repaired, homework checked, stories told. Victories remain domestic, hidden, and endlessly repeated, but enduring completely. Evening descends like velvet. Stairwells hum with voices. Kitchens simmer gently, and companionship proves stronger than scarcity, sheltering families inside warmth greater than propaganda. Candles calm restless rooms. Radiators whisper lullabies, and silence steadies hearts, preparing them gently for the surrender required by sleep's patient, inevitable arrival tonight kindly. Blankets weigh softly. Pillows absorb worry, and dreams create orchards where bread grows freely. Laughter rises easily, and mornings arrive without fear or shortages tonight peacefully. Morning repeats its ritual. Slippers align beneath beds. Kettles rehearse songs. Porridge stirs itself, and families assemble strength silently, prepared for another measured rehearsal of survival. Tram bells echo steadily. Passengers move quietly. Silence links them like chains, and together they glide through frost-bound streets, survivors bound invisibly by patience, courage, and kindness. Bakeries draw long queues. Again, jokes ripple gently. Rumors trade cautiously. And when bread appears steaming, relief passes through the crowd like sunlight chasing shadows quickly. Factories demand effort again. Belts turn endlessly. Sparks brighten the dim halls. And repetition endures, proving persistence greater than policy. Building futures from small, repeated movements daily. Tea calms trembling fingers. Biscuits soften hunger. Laughter eases burdens. And camaraderie becomes the true resource, sustaining communities beyond scarcity, better than any political directive could. Portraits declare triumphs. However, pride rests closer. Floors scrubbed, coats patched, potatoes peeled, songs sung. These small acts preserve dignity better than any proclamation across concrete. Evening returns, stairwells echo, kitchens perfume air, and conversations gather warmth into bowls, feeding spirits alongside soup, carrying hope more effectively than newspapers. Candles guard tables, radiators soothe corners, silence promises mercy, and night bends low, offering its lap for weary bodies to rest upon tonight safely. Quilts tighten their hold, breathing slows naturally, and dreams drift like boats, ferrying workers and families toward peaceful shores, invisible by daylight, but reachable tonight, gently. Morning breathes quietly, slippers slide into place, kettles speak, porridge answers, and another rehearsal of patience begins, timeless, practiced, and quietly brave across generations of endurance faithfully. Tram bells chime again, passengers sway. Silence binds companions together, and frost paints the glass, blurring landscapes into a single shared image of survival repeated endlessly. Bakeries hum with waiting voices, queues stretch, breath clouds linger, and when bread arrives warm, relief floods courtyards like music rediscovered after silence, precious and unforgettable. Factories rise into noise again. Belts snap, machines answer, and persistence carries bodies forward faithfully. Dignity hidden not in quotas, but in finished work completed honestly. Tea rescues workers once again. Biscuits divide like currency. Laughter grows bravely, and companionship restores courage, stronger than promises, brighter than policies, sustaining until shifts close patiently. Murals shine in corners, yet truth thrives elsewhere. Coats dried, soups shared, neighbors helped, elders comforted, and victories gather quietly, rarely recorded, but never forgotten faithfully. Evening settles, stairwells gently, kitchens open doors. Laughter streams outward, and neighbors become families, stronger than shortages, turning scarcity into a space of resilience daily. Candles spark halos, radiators repeat their lullaby. Silence spreads across rooms, and night leans down, granting release from burdens, carrying everyone toward rest faithfully tonight. Blankets cover worries, pillows cradle tiredness, and dreams construct landscapes abundant with fruit, warmth, and peace, free from shortages, richer than quotas, kinder than propaganda. Morning breathes through frost again. Slippers slip forward, kettles whistle, porridge stirs patiently, and households tie scarves, ready to endure another day's symphony of survival. Tram bells echo gently, windows fog instantly, silence weaves, and footsteps march unseen through streets frozen with both hardship and resilience. Braided tightly, bakeries gather queues faithfully. Breath lifts like incense, laughter rolls through lines, and warm loaves transform strangers into companions. sharing joy greater than scarcity could suppress today. Factory whistles pierce the cold. Machines ignite their rhythm. Sparks scatter like stars. And repetition assures that persistence, not politics, sustains life honestly within walls. Tea soothes sore fingers. Biscuits soften hunger's edges. Laughter interrupts fatigue. And camaraderie, stronger than rations, proves itself once again the true strength behind survival faithfully. Posters beam endlessly above doors. However, victories occur at tables. Soups ladled, homework checked, coats mended, and lullabies sung, quiet achievements preserved with tenderness every night. Evening pours warmth into stairwells. Supper simmers faithfully. Conversations echo softly. And community stitches together holes. Shortages leave, protecting every family against despair. Candles steady the room's pulse. Radiators murmur comfort. Silence offers peace. And night lays its cloak over tired shoulders, preparing them for sleep's gentle voyage tonight. Blankets embrace tired bodies, dreams ascend softly, and imagination sketches brighter landscapes where children play freely. Bread is abundant, and tomorrow carries less weight tonight. Morning prepares itself again faithfully. Slippers stand ready, kettles whisper gently, porridge thickens warmly, and neighbors smile briefly, promising silently that endurance will carry them through another day. Morning opens slowly. Frost maps the windows. Kettles sing, slippers shuffle, and neighbors trade nods, promising another ordinary day carried gently by patience, kindness, and practiced endurance faithfully. Tram bells keep time. Breath pearls the glass. Passengers sway together silently, carrying small hopes in pockets beside bread tickets, letters, and folded addresses for distant cousins carefully. Queues ribbon past bakeries. Scarves brighten gray streets. Steam escapes doorways, and warm loaves arrive, convincing cold hands that winter can still be gentle, even merciful, sometimes today. Factories answer with thunder. Switches click obediently. Tools spark, and repetition steadies anxious thoughts, transforming worry into craftsmanship. One measured gesture after another across necessary hours steadily. Tea rescues aching fingers. Biscuits divide neatly. Laughter threads between machines, stitching courage where materials thin, reminding everyone that kindness remains the strongest, most reliable tool daily. Portraits decorate the walls proudly. However, victories collect quietly in kitchens, boots dried, potatoes peeled, soup stretched farther, and letters answered kindly after difficult, honest shifts tonight. Afternoon lengthens like a corridor. Fatigue presses shoulders. Nevertheless, camaraderie lifts weight better than steel carts. Rolling spirits, the final meters toward whistles, granting welcome release peacefully. Stairwells bloom with voices. Coats shake off snow. Supper, perfumes, apartments, and children report tiny triumphs, earning applause louder than radios reciting distant accomplishments tonight gently. Candles persuade shadows to behave. Radiators murmur patient hymns. Silence smooths corners, and night invites worries to rest their heads on folded towels beside slippers faithfully. Blankets gather families into harbors. Breathing slows. Dreams construct markets without queues, apartments without leaks, and mornings that arrive carrying baskets filled generously with oranges and sunlight peacefully. Dawn taps the window. Kettles answer cheerfully. Porridge remembers duty, and neighbors shoulder unseen ropes together, pulling the city gently toward usefulness, without complaint or theatrics, patiently. Courtyards crackle beneath boots, newspapers flutter. Tram lines sing a steel melody, guiding passengers into repetition's workshop, where dignity is shaped patiently from persistence and shared effort daily. In the windowed office, pens hurry, forms multiply like snow, typewriters clatter, bureaucracy spins, yet clerks trade smiles sufficient to keep compassion circulating between neighboring desks faithfully. Break time arrives thin and welcome. Tea steadies concentration. Biscuits crumble like promises, and humor patches resolve wherever policies leave gaps wider than winter streets, sometimes gently. Posters praise achievements loudly. However, real honor lives beside stoves, mittens drying, soup thickening, a chair offered, and a story told softly to restore courage peacefully. Evening releases stairwells from echoes, doors bloom open, bowls fill generously, and conversation turns steam into shelter, enclosing hopeful hearts within walls stronger than weather kindly. Candles tilt like thoughtful listeners. Radiators keep the beat. Silence lays velvet across tables, inviting tired eyelids to consider surrender as the wisest, kindest choice tonight. Quilts memorize every back, pillows accept confessions. Dreams file paperwork for better futures, stamping visas, permitting passage beyond shortages, toward meadows of uncomplicated bread and sunlight gently. Morning rehearses familiar lines. Slippers report for duty. Kettles whistle, and neighbors nod like metronomes, sensing courage to time so labor can proceed steadily again, together peacefully. Tram windows fog immediately. Shoulders touch kindly. Silence says more than speeches. Ferrying passengers through streets where frost draws maps nobody intends to follow today, thankfully. Bakeries unlock doors. Queues shuffle forward. Scarves knot tighter. Breath rises, and the fragrance of bread announces victory greater than propaganda, a warmth that nourishes everyone generously. Factories roar with renewed strength. Belts spin tirelessly. Sparks scatter, and repetition becomes symphony, shaping usefulness from raw steel, echoing persistence, louder than slogans pinned across concrete faithfully. Tea steams again. Biscuits crumble gently. Laughter circles tables, reminding workers that courage multiplies through kindness, weaving stronger nets than rations or posters could ever promise kindly. Portraits smile sternly. However, victories whisper elsewhere. Soups extended, boots repaired, neighbors escorted safely, and letters answered tenderly, proof that dignity survives more through kindness than policy. Evening drapes, stairwells, invoices, supper, aromas, drift, children chatter, and conversations build warmth enough to eclipse shortages, making rooms glow brighter than lamplight tonight, gratefully. Candles flicker steadily. Radiators exhale warmth. Silence leans closer, and night arranges blankets carefully, convincing anxious thoughts to sleep quietly until tomorrow morning's duties return faithfully. Blankets weigh softly, pillows cradle patiently, and dreams write stories of abundance, where bread appears without waiting, coats never thin, and laughter outlasts shortages effortlessly tonight. Morning brightens frosted panes, slippers answer. Kettles whistle warmly, porridge thickens, and neighbors assemble quietly in stairwells, prepared for another cycle of work, cues, kindness, and endurance. Tram bells clang rhythmically, Windows bead with condensation. Passengers sway silently, and companionship holds them upright, weaving unseen threads of resilience between strangers standing shoulder to shoulder. Bakeries host their familiar cues. Scarves brighten lines, breath clouds overlap, and when bread arrives, gratitude spreads like fire, warming spirits more effectively than coats. Factories gather voices, machines bellow, sparks dance, and repetition restores meaning, proving survival thrives, not in promises, but in bolts, tightened and usefulness completed every day. Tea rescues trembling hands, biscuits divide evenly. Laughter soothes fatigue, and camaraderie carries weary bodies past bureaucracy's weight, teaching endurance through kindness, shared without hesitation everywhere. Posters boast abundance. However, triumphs bloom at home. Children comforted, coats repaired, mittens dried, and candles lit. Victories remembered tenderly inside kitchens, warmer than official reports, faithfully. Evening hums through stairwells. Supper steams, neighbors, trade stories, and companionship proves itself stronger than shortages, weaving invisible blankets around families needing warmth tonight. Candles lean across tabletops. Radiators hum lullabies. Silence gathers scattered thoughts, preparing rooms for sleep's gentle arrival, smoothing burdens into softer shapes, easier to carry tomorrow. Quilts settle gently, breathing slows like rivers, and dreams plant orchards where scarcity disappears, where bread grows on trees and laughter waits on every doorstep tonight. Dawn greets rooftops with pale light. Slippers wait loyally. Kettles whistle. Porridge simmers. And households prepare once again to trade strength for survival and kindness repeatedly. Courtyards crunch beneath boots. Tram lines vibrate. Scarves tighten. And passengers travel quietly through streets marked by resilience, carrying one another invisibly, even when words remain unspoken gently. Bakeries open again. Queues twist patiently. Steam breathes warmth, and bread distributed carefully becomes treasure, each loaf heavier with meaning than any coin or poster could manage. Factories demand obedience. Belts spin. Sparks scatter. And persistence remains the foundation, teaching survival through labor, proving dignity arises not from politics, but from repeated effort today. Tea welcomes tired hands. Biscuits crumble cheerfully. Laughter restores spirits. And camaraderie, stronger than ration cards, supplies enough courage to last until whistles signal evening freedom together. Murals beam above machines. However, real victories arrive at doorsteps. Potatoes shared, elders helped, stories exchanged, and letters read aloud. Accomplishments cherished more deeply than quotas could ever be. Evening warms, stairwells gently, supper perfumes, kitchens, and voices stitch companionship into walls, ensuring every apartment holds enough kindness to endure whatever tomorrow may bring kindly. Candles calm restless rooms. Radiators breathe steady warmth. Silence soothes weariness, convincing anxious minds to surrender burdens gracefully into the gentle arms of sleep tonight, faithfully. Blankets wrapped tired bodies. Pillows cradle hopes, and dreams carry workers toward imagined summers abundant with fruit, laughter echoing freely, and peace unbroken by shortages beautifully. Morning rehearses its familiar script. Slippers align neatly. Kettles hum proudly. Porridge stirs faithfully, and neighbors shoulder invisible ropes together, pulling the city toward another cycle of endurance. Tram bells announce departure. Passengers cluster silently. Windows fog instantly. And companionship weaves resilience across the carriage, reminding everyone that survival is never solitary, always shared kindly. Bakeries breathe steam through courtyards. Queues shuffle patiently. Children cling tightly to scarves, and bread delivered warmly transforms strangers into companions for another day gratefully. Factories light their furnaces. Machines thrum heavily. Sparks scatter rhythmically, and repetition teaches dignity again, proving usefulness resides within persistence, not propaganda pinned across the concrete walls. Tea fills chipped glasses. Biscuits soften quickly. Laughter circles tables, and companionship stitches spirits stronger than fatigue, restoring enough courage to carry through until evening faithfully. Portraits beam overhead sternly. However, pride collects quietly at home. Soups seasoned, coats patched, homework checked, and lullabies sung. Victories preserved gently through love and patience daily. Evening echoes in stairwells. Supper bowls clink, stories travel between walls, and companionship ensures rooms glow brighter than lamplight, lifting families above shortages together gratefully. Candles whisper gently, radiators murmur softly. Silence kneels at the table, preparing hearts for surrender, guiding them carefully toward rest's forgiving embrace tonight. Quilts settle across weary shoulders, breathing slows. Dreams escort families to hidden orchards where bread is plentiful, warmth constant, and laughter abundant every evening tonight. Morning clears frosted panes. Slippers answer faithfully. Kettles whistle their tune. Porridge bubbles patiently. And neighbors begin another rehearsal of patience, kindness, and endurance across stairwells together. Tram bells ring across courtyards. Passengers board silently. Windows fog quickly, and silence carries them past posters, deeper into survival's rhythm, steady and familiar, sustaining daily. Bakeries gather queues faithfully. Rumors drift like smoke, and when loaves appear steaming, relief travels the line quickly, warming everyone with gratitude far stronger than propaganda. Factories rise with noise again. Machines roar. Sparks leap brightly, and repetition steadies weary bodies, shaping dignity from persistence, forging survival beyond promises or speeches loudly. Tea soothes trembling fingers. Biscuits crumble kindly. Laughter relieves fatigue, and camaraderie supplies endurance, proving that kindness multiplies strength better than quotas ever could faithfully. Posters declare victories boldly, yet households celebrate quieter triumphs. Potatoes stored safely, windows sealed firmly, children warmed kindly, and families comforted with soup and conversation daily. Evening arrives softly, stairwells echo warmly, kitchens release aromas, and conversations gather neighbors together, weaving comfort beyond shortages into fabric strong enough for every heart faithfully. Candles flicker patiently. Radiators hum lullabies. Silence kneads the air into calmness, preparing bodies to surrender willingly into the waiting arms of sleep tonight gently. Blankets wrap heavily around shoulders, pillows cradle softly, and dreams carry exhausted hearts toward lands abundant with kindness, bread, and laughter. Far beyond shortages tonight peacefully. Morning brightens rooftops faintly. Slippers shuffle. Kettles whistle proudly. Porridge stirs steadily, and households prepare once again to trade endurance for survival, patience for dignity, courage for kindness together. Tram bells echo rhythmically. Passengers lean silently. Windows blur instantly, And companionship knits strangers into survival's tapestry, where every stitch matters equally, binding the city together faithfully. Bakeries, open doors, queues coil patiently, scarves guard faces, and when bread appears, gratitude bursts outward like sunlight reflected on snow, warming spirits generously again. Factories, thunder, machines spin tirelessly, sparks brighten darkness, and repetition engraves dignity into metal, proving usefulness lives within ordinary hands, not lofty declarations written across walls. Tea restores weary muscles, biscuits soften fatigue, laughter trickles warmly, and camaraderie, exchanged freely, sustains morale longer than slogans or posters ever could, truthfully. Murals beam overhead. However, victories are small and stubborn. Mittens repaired, children comforted, soup extended, kindness offered quietly. Triumphs hidden within apartments, warmer than propaganda, faithfully. Evening collects weary footsteps. Stairwells hum softly. Supper bowls clink warmly. And companionship transforms scarcity into resilience, weaving warmth across doorways wider than shortages themselves. Candles burn gently, radiators purr kindly. Silence gathers anxieties, transforming them into softness, until sleep's invitation becomes irresistible to every tired body tonight peacefully. Quilts anchor families warmly, pillows accept burdens gently, and dreams carry spirits toward imagined orchards bright with oranges. Laughter and freedom beyond quotas tonight kindly. Morning rehearses its steady hymn. Slippers shuffle, kettles sing, porridge thickens patiently, and neighbors promise silently to endure whatever the day demands, faithfully together. Tram bells echo across courtyards. Windows fog instantly. Passengers sway quietly, and silence binds strangers tightly, carrying them past posters into another performance of survival, rehearsed daily. Bakeries draw familiar cues, rumors wander softly, laughter persists gently, and when bread appears warm, gratitude floods hearts, greater than winter's cold or speeches could deny. Factories demand strength again, sparks leap across steel, belts hum consistently, and repetition rescues dignity from scarcity, proving usefulness builds resilience more reliably than propaganda loudly. Tea steadies trembling fingers, biscuits soften worry, laughter refreshes courage, and camaraderie reassures tired workers that kindness is the truest, most abundant resource within reach daily. Portraits beam with certainty overhead. However, victories bloom at tables, soups served, boots dried, mittens patched, lullabies sung. Simple acts sustaining families more honestly than reports. Evening warms stairwells with supper aromas. Conversations echo gently, and companionship shelters every room, reminding families that shortages cannot weaken bonds built steadily through kindness nightly. Candles glow patiently, radiators hum comfort, silence stitches calmness into corners, preparing weary spirits to accept sleep's quiet invitation, surrendering gently tonight. Blankets weigh across shoulders, pillows comfort tiredness, and dreams unfold, landscapes abundant with sunlight, laughter, and endless bread, far from cues or propaganda tonight faithfully. Morning breathes lightly through windows, slippers align neatly, kettles whistle brightly, porridge thickens faithfully, and households prepare once again to trade patience for survival together carefully. Tram bells toll rhythmically, passengers huddle, windows blur steadily, and silence links companions together invisibly, weaving a net of survival across frosted streets today kindly. Bakeries open slowly, queues stretch long, scarves protect weary faces, and bread's arrival delivers relief greater than speeches, warming spirits stronger than promises ever could generously. Factories roar alive, machines repeat endlessly, sparks brighten gray halls, and persistence records itself across bolts tightened faithfully, dignity carried in every completed task truthfully. Tea restores patience, biscuits crumble softly, laughter ripples warmly, and camaraderie reassures hearts, teaching once again that kindness remains survival's truest, most dependable foundation daily. Posters promise abundance proudly. However, homes deliver victories, coats patched lovingly, potatoes boiled carefully, stories told gently, and comfort shared kindly across generations faithfully. Evening gathers stairwells into harmony, kitchens perfume apartments warmly, and conversations transform scarcity into companionship, proving solidarity stronger than shortages nightly. Candles glow steadily, radiators hum lullabies, silence smooths worries softly, and night guides weary bodies into rest's forgiving harbor, cradling hearts kindly tonight. Quilts comfort shoulders, pillows soften burdens, and dreams guide spirits toward orchards abundant with bread, laughter, and warmth, untouched by shortages tonight peacefully. Morning returns predictably, slippers shuffle faithfully, kettles sing brightly, porridge thickens warmly, and neighbors prepare once more to meet challenges with patience, dignity, and kindness together. Tram bells clang consistently, passengers cluster quietly, windows fog heavily, and silence carries companions faithfully through frostbitten streets, proving survival always belongs to many, never just one kindly. Bakeries fill with queues patiently, rumors drift softly, and bread's arrival warms every heart instantly, a victory greater than posters or speeches could ever truthfully deliver. Factories awaken noisily, belts turn endlessly, sparks leap faithfully, and persistence creates dignity, proving usefulness belongs to those who repeat tasks tirelessly, shaping resilience daily. Tea refreshes tired hands, biscuits break evenly, laughter travels gently, and camaraderie restores faith, stitching warmth across weary workers more reliably than slogans could ever accomplish. Murals beam above proudly, small acts preserving dignity beyond politics daily. Evening hums through stairwells warmly, supper scents linger patiently, conversations echo softly, and companionship provides warmth stronger than coal, weaving families into resilience faithfully. Candles tilt gracefully, radiators breathe quietly, silence blesses walls with calmness, and night leans over kindly, urging weary minds toward rest's shelter tonight. Blankets gather gently, pillows cradle faithfully, slippers slide forward, kettles sing steadily, porridge thickens warmly, and households prepare once again to face another cycle of survival faithfully together. Morning stretches frost across glass, kettles sing warmly, slippers shuffle obediently, and neighbors exchange quiet nods, promising endurance, stitched together again for another shared rehearsal of survival today. Tram bells chime rhythmically, passengers cluster silently, windows fog instantly, and silence binds strangers like thread, weaving invisible companionship through frozen courtyards and weary streets faithfully. Bakeries breathe steam steadily. Queues shuffle patiently. Scarves shield faces, and bread appears glowing. A victory carried gently into arms that value warmth more deeply than gold. Factories roar alive. Sparks scatter widely. Repetition rules the day, and usefulness is carved faithfully into steel, proving dignity endures best through work completed, not words spoken. Tea lifts trembling hands. Biscuits crumble gently. Laughter brightens fatigue, and camaraderie sustains weary spirits, reminding everyone kindness remains the most reliable currency inside gray walls today. Posters beam across corridors, yet victories shine inside kitchens. Soups thickened lovingly, coats patched carefully, children comforted gently, and conversations remembered longer than reports, warmer than policies. Evening lowers its curtain. Stairwells echo footsteps. Supper perfumes rooms, and families trade small treasures. Stories, smiles turning scarcity into resilience, making walls feel stronger tonight. Candles sway like listeners. Radiators hum patiently. Silence fills corners, and night invites hearts to surrender, guiding burdens into pillows where sleep's gentle harbor waits faithfully. Blankets cradle shoulders softly. Pillows hold whispered confessions, and dreams ferry tired souls into imagined markets where queues vanish, baskets overflow, and laughter replaces shortages tonight. Morning brushes rooftops pale. Kettles whistle brightly. Slippers align neatly. Porridge bubbles kindly, and neighbors gather once more to trade patience for survival, courage for comfort, silently together. Tram windows fog immediately. Passengers sway quietly. Silence hums like music, and companionship protects them, uniting strangers in endurance across streets patterned with frost and waiting. Bakeries unlock their doors. Steam curls outward. Queues fold patiently, and bread becomes treasure, heavier with meaning than coins, warming spirits more effectively than speeches proudly declared. Factories awaken noisily. Machines roar steadily. Sparks leap tirelessly, and repetition, though wearying, becomes the truest hymn of survival, crafting dignity through persistence, practiced faithfully every day. Tea rescues weary fingers. Biscuits soften hunger. Laughter spreads quickly, and camaraderie strengthens shoulders, keeping resilience alive despite shortages, proving kindness remains survival's most unshakable foundation. Truthfully, murals praise loudly, yet victories exist quietly. Children lulled gently, potatoes stored carefully, mittens mended lovingly, and neighbors helped faithfully. Achievements remembered longer than promises recorded officially. Evening hums through stairwells warmly. Supper, perfumes, apartments. Laughter travels across walls, turning scarcity into solidarity, and companionship builds warmth stronger than radiators, stronger than lamps tonight. Candles calm restless corners. Radiators exhale softly. Silence holds space, and night persuades every anxious thought to dissolve gently into sleep's timeless refuge, granting mercy tonight. Blankets anchor families kindly. Pillows absorb fatigue silently, and dreams sketch hidden gardens, abundant with fruit, sunlight, and laughter, far beyond queues, shortages, or propaganda tonight. Dawn touches panes faintly. Kettles reply cheerfully. Slippers shuffle patiently. Porridge stirs warmly, and neighbors promise silently to shoulder another day's rehearsed burdens together. faithfully. Tram bells count time reliably. Passengers press quietly. Windows fog heavily, and silence binds them into endurance, carrying each spirit alongside countless others across frozen streets kindly. Bakeries call familiar cues, scarves brighten dull air, breath clouds overlap, and bread's arrival becomes sunlight shared generously, reminding weary hearts that nourishment remains possible daily. Factories thunder endlessly, sparks scatter brightly, belts churn steadily, and repetition becomes survival's signature, carving dignity faithfully into bolts, wheels, and levers, sustaining life beyond policies. Tea refreshes trembling hands. Biscuits divide neatly. Laughter spreads warmly, and camaraderie heals fatigue, proving kindness outlasts scarcity, restoring courage more powerfully than quotas could promise daily. Portraits beam sternly from walls, yet victories bloom tenderly inside homes, and lullabies sung gently tonight. Evening quiets, stairwells kindly, supper aromas drift warmly, children chatter happily, and conversations thread comfort into rooms, weaving companionship resilient enough to withstand shortages faithfully. Candles glow softly, radiators hum steadily, silence smooths air gently, and night gathers families beneath its cloak, guiding tired eyes toward the forgiving harbor of dreams. Blankets comfort weary shoulders, pillows cradle anxious thoughts, and dreams invent futures abundant with bread, warmth, and laughter, carrying families past scarcity into timeless peace tonight. Morning calls softly, kettles whistle proudly, slippers shuffle obediently, porridge steams faithfully, and households ready themselves for another rehearsal of patience, dignity, and kindness today. Tram bells echo steadily, passengers lean silently, windows fog instantly, and companionship strengthens strangers into survivors, weaving invisible bonds through frostbitten streets kindly. Bakeries open doors, queues shuffle slowly, breath clouds linger, and bread, steaming brightly, reassures weary families that tomorrow will still arrive with nourishment faithfully. Factories roar alive, machines spin tirelessly, sparks leap across steel, and repetition steadies anxious minds, shaping survival through bolts and wheels rather than speeches or posters proudly. Tea lifts tired spirits, biscuits crumble gently, laughter scatters joy, and camaraderie comforts everyone, proving kindness is the one resource never subject to shortages daily. Murals sing of triumph, yet truth thrives humbly. Potatoes stored carefully, mittens patched faithfully, elders comforted kindly, and families surviving together through love tonight. Evening returns softly, stairwells echo warmly, supper perfumes kitchens, and companionship stronger than any policy provides comfort that radiators alone cannot supply tonight. Candles tilt gently, radiators sigh patiently. Silence reassures weary hearts, preparing them for rest's tender embrace. A lullaby beyond speeches or plans tonight. Blankets weigh softly across shoulders, pillows comfort tiredness, and dreams carry souls into orchards where fruit overflows, laughter rings, and shortages vanish peacefully. Morning breathes through frosted panes, kettles hum warmly, slippers shuffle patiently, porridge thickens faithfully, and neighbors ready themselves for another cycle of endurance and kindness. Tram bells echo rhythmically, passengers sway quietly, Silence links their survival together across streets where frost paints reminders of hardship endured faithfully today. Bakeries hum with lines, queues shuffle patiently, steam breathes relief, and bread distributed evenly warms spirits greater than speeches ever could, truthfully. Factories ignite loudly, belts spin endlessly, sparks leap faithfully, and repetition transforms raw material into dignity, usefulness, and survival carried forward daily. Tea soothes trembling fingers, biscuits crumble gently, laughter travels warmly, and camaraderie strengthens bodies, binding companions with kindness greater than quotas could achieve honestly. Posters declare abundance loudly, yet victories bloom softly, soups stretched carefully, coats repaired lovingly, children lulled gently, and households preserved faithfully tonight. Evening whispers through stairwells, supper scents linger gently, conversations rise warmly, and companionship proves stronger than cold shortages, weaving resilience tonight. Candles brighten dim rooms, radiators hum lullabies, silence calms nerves, and night guides weary souls gently into forgiving sleep. And dreams paint meadows of sunlight, laughter, and fruit abundant beyond shortages tonight. Morning greets rooftops faintly, kettles whistle steadily, slippers shuffle faithfully, porridge bubbles warmly, and families prepare for another rehearsal of survival kindly. Tram bells toll consistently, passengers huddle quietly, windows blur instantly, and silence binds companions, carrying them faithfully through frost-bound courtyards today. Bakeries breathe warmth, queues lengthen endlessly, breath clouds gather, and bread's fragrance restores hope greater than propaganda ever could tonight. Factories thrum noisily, machines roar faithfully, sparks scatter brightly, and repetition engraves dignity into steel, sustaining households beyond promises daily. Tea fills chipped glasses, biscuits divide fairly, laughter circles gently, and camaraderie heals fatigue more powerfully than rations faithfully. Portraits beam overhead proudly. However, real triumphs glow humbly, coats patched, potatoes peeled, lullabies sung, neighbors comforted kindly tonight. Evening settles stairwells warmly, supper perfumes rooms gently, voices echo softly, and companionship strengthens walls against shortages faithfully. Candles lean gently, radiators hum patiently. Silence eases worry, guiding weary minds into rest's soft embrace tonight. Blankets cradle shoulders, pillows comfort tiredness, and dreams scatter seeds of laughter into meadows free from shortages faithfully. Morning brightens rooftops softly, slippers shuffle faithfully, kettles whistle warmly, porridge thickens steadily, and neighbors gather silently to endure another day together kindly. Tram bells echo rhythmically, passengers sway quietly, windows fog instantly, and silence carries everyone into repetition's faithful embrace daily. Bakeries open gently, queues shuffle patiently, steam drifts kindly, and bread becomes treasure carried reverently through streets, warming spirits more than mittens faithfully. Factories roar again, sparks leap brightly, repetition steadies workers, and dignity is shaped quietly within bolts and wheels, more honestly than reports truthfully. Tea blesses tired fingers, biscuits soften hunger gently, laughter interrupts fatigue, and camaraderie reassures weary hearts kindly. Posters boast loudly, yet truth thrives softly. Children embraced lovingly, coats patched faithfully, potatoes boiled carefully, and families sustained kindly. Evening hums, stairwells gently, supper scents drift softly, conversations echo warmly, weaving companionship resilient enough to outlast shortages tonight. Candles glow patiently, radiators hum faithfully, silence calms corners, and night offers surrender kindly to rest. Blankets wrap weary shoulders, pillows cradle burdens, and dreams weave abundant gardens beyond shortages peacefully. Morning calls softly, kettles whistle steadily, slippers shuffle patiently, porridge stirs kindly, preparing families for another rehearsal of endurance daily. Tram bells clang faithfully, passengers cluster silently, windows fog instantly, and silence carries them through frost-bitten streets today. Bakeries breathe relief into air. Queues shuffle faithfully. Bread's fragrance warms spirits stronger than speeches kindly. Factories demand obedience. Sparks scatter brightly. Repetition holds steady, and dignity resides within persistence beyond slogans faithfully. Tea restores patience. Biscuits crumble gently. Laughter soothes fatigue kindly. Murals praise loudly. However, victories remain humble. Mittens patched, soups stretched, coats dried, and neighbors comforted warmly. Evening gathers, stairwells softly. Supper, perfumes, kitchens, companionship shelters, hearts faithfully. Candles flicker gently, radiators hum patiently. Silence prepares weary minds for rest. Blankets comfort tired shoulders. Pillows accept worries kindly. And dreams invent lands abundant with warmth faithfully. Morning arrives softly. Slippers shuffle steadily. Kettles whistle kindly. Porridge simmers patiently, rehearsing survival again. Tram bells toll faithfully. Passengers sway silently. Windows fog immediately. Companionship binds them gently across courtyards today. Bakeries open slowly. Queues shuffle patiently. Steam curls warmly. Bread sustains spirits faithfully. Factories roar loudly. Belts hum steadily. Sparks scatter brightly. And repetition engraves persistence truthfully. Tea soothes hands gently. Biscuits soften hunger kindly. Laughter refreshes spirits faithfully. Posters promise abundance loudly. However, truth glows softly. Coats patched, potatoes stored, children embraced warmly. Evening settles, stairwells gently. Supper scents linger kindly. Conversations weave resilience faithfully. Candles glow steadily. Radiators hum softly. Silence comforts hearts tonight. Blankets cradle bodies warmly. Pillows soften burdens gently. Dreams scatter seeds beyond shortages faithfully. Morning breathes faintly. Slippers shuffle faithfully. Kettles whistle kindly. Porridge bubbles warmly today. Tram bells echo faithfully. Passengers clustered silently. Windows fog instantly. Companionship sustains endurance kindly. Bakeries unlock doors slowly. Queues shuffle patiently. Steam breathes relief. Bread nourishes spirits tonight. Factories roar faithfully. Sparks scatter brightly. Repetition steadies survival daily. Tea lifts spirits kindly. Biscuits divide evenly. Laughter sustains courage faithfully. Murals beam proudly. However, households protect truth. Neighbors comforted warmly. Soups stretched carefully. Lullabies sung softly. Evening hums. Stairwells faithfully. Supper, perfumes, kitchens kindly. Companionship comforts walls tonight. Candles glow gently. Radiators hum patiently. Silence reassures tired hearts kindly. Blankets cover shoulders softly. Pillows cradle burdens warmly. Dreams carry spirits beyond shortages tonight. Morning whispers faintly. Slippers shuffle faithfully. Kettles sing kindly. Porridge thickens patiently today. Tram bells ring steadily. Passengers cluster silently. Windows fog instantly. Companionship sustains survival faithfully. Bakeries breathe warmly. Queues shuffle patiently. Bread appears glowing. Spirits lift gratefully tonight. Factories roar loudly. Sparks scatter brightly. Repetition engraves dignity faithfully. Tea restores hands kindly. Biscuits soften hunger warmly. Laughter repairs courage tonight. Posters boast proudly. However, households hold truth. Coats patched carefully. Potatoes stored kindly. Neighbors supported warmly. Evening drapes, stairwells gently. Supper perfumes, rooms kindly. Companionship shelters hearts faithfully. Candles burn steadily. Radiators hum softly. Silence welcomes rest tonight. Blankets hold bodies gently. Pillows soften burdens warmly. Dreams create orchards abundant with peace faithfully. Morning returns quietly. Slippers align faithfully. Kettles whistle kindly. Porridge steams patiently, rehearsing endurance once again. Kettles sing faithfully. Slippers shuffle gently. Porridge thickens warmly, and families prepare once again for survival's endless rehearsal of kindness, courage, and patience today. Tram bells echo rhythmically. Passengers sway silently. Windows fog instantly, and companionship holds them upright, weaving invisible threads of resilience across frostbitten courtyards and weary streets, faithfully together. Queues shuffle patiently. Steam curls outward, and bread delivered warmly becomes treasure. Warming hands and spirits more powerfully than propaganda or coins could ever manage. Factories awaken noisily. Machines roar steadily. Sparks leap brightly, and repetition engraves persistence into steel. Proving dignity grows honestly through bolts tightened faithfully, not posters painted loudly today. Laughter restores energy, and camaraderie, shared freely, sustains bodies more reliably than speeches, preserving spirits faithfully against shortages tonight. Murals beam proudly from walls. However, victories bloom humbly within homes. Potatoes peeled carefully, coats patched lovingly, children lulled gently, and neighbors comforted kindly. Truths stronger than slogans, faithfully. Children chatter brightly, and companionship transforms scarcity into resilience, weaving warmth enough to guard families faithfully against another night together. Candles sway gently, and night guides weary bodies carefully toward sleep's forgiving arms, where burdens dissolve into peace tonight, and dreams carry hearts toward orchards filled with bread, laughter, and sunlight, abundant far beyond queues, shortages, and propaganda's noise. Morning breathes pale light into rooms. Kettles sing kindly. Slippers shuffle steadily. Porridge steams warmly, preparing families for another rehearsal of endurance, kindness, and persistence faithfully today. Windows fog quickly, and companionship links strangers invisibly, weaving survival's tapestry across frosted courtyards and weary streets together kindly. Bakeries fill with queues patiently. Rumors drift softly. Steam breathes relief, and bread's arrival warms families gratefully. Victories more honest than speeches or posters proclaimed proudly. sparks scatter brightly, and repetition steadies anxious minds, forging dignity faithfully from labor's constancy, not propagandas, declarations shouted loudly. Tea rescues trembling hands, biscuits soften hunger gently, laughter ripples kindly, and camaraderie sustains resilience more reliably than quotas, proving kindness always multiplies strength faithfully today. However, victories shine elsewhere. Coats mended carefully, lullabies sung lovingly, neighbors helped kindly, and potatoes stored safely, accomplishments remembered longer than speeches, evening hums, stairwells gently, supper perfumes, apartments warmly, laughter travels across walls, stitching companionship into fabric stronger than shortages, stronger than speeches, stronger than propaganda tonight. Candles flicker steadily, radiators murmur softly, silence smooths edges, and night gathers weary spirits gently, preparing them for surrender into forgiving sleep's timeless shelter faithfully tonight. Blankets cradle shoulders softly, pillows comfort burdens gently, and dreams draw maps leading families toward horizons abundant with sunlight, bread, and laughter, free from shortages tonight. Slippers shuffle patiently, porridge thickens faithfully, and neighbors rehearse endurance once again, promising courage and kindness against another day today. Tram bells sing reliably, passengers cluster silently, windows fog instantly, and companionship holds them steady, weaving resilience stronger than winter's cold, stronger than speeches, faithfully together, kindly. Steam curls warmly, and bread's arrival delivers relief, warming households beyond politics. Victories recorded faithfully in kitchens, not reports. Factories roar loudly, sparks scatter brightly, repetition hums endlessly, and persistence engraves dignity, proving usefulness arises from bolts tightened daily, not slogans written across walls loudly. Tea steadies weary fingers, biscuits crumble gently, laughter heals kindly, and camaraderie strengthens courage, showing kindness is always the most enduring currency for survival faithfully. Posters beam proudly. However, households hold victories quietly, coats patched carefully, children lulled tenderly, soups stretched faithfully, and neighbors supported warmly, truths more resilient than speeches. Evening settles, stairwells warmly, supper perfumes, kitchens softly, voices echo gently, and companionship transforms scarcity into solidarity, weaving resilience through walls faithfully. Candles tilt steadily, radiators hum gently, silence calms corners, and night prepares hearts tenderly for surrender into sleep's timeless refuge kindly. And dreams sketch orchards where laughter flourishes, bread overflows, and sunlight never fades peacefully. Morning brightens rooftops faintly, kettles hum warmly, porridge bubbles faithfully, rehearsing survival's rhythm once again today. Tram bells echo rhythmically, passengers sway quietly, windows fog instantly, and companionship threads strangers into survival's fabric, weaving resilience faithfully across frost and silence. Bakeries breathe relief into courtyards, queues shuffle patiently, bread appears glowing warmly, and gratitude flows deeper than speeches, sustaining spirits faithfully through shortages daily. Factories thrum noisily, machines roar steadily, sparks leap brightly, and repetition steadies tired hearts, forging persistence into dignity beyond propaganda faithfully. Tea refreshes trembling fingers, biscuits crumble gently, Laughter soothes fatigue warmly, and camaraderie preserves courage, proving kindness never diminishes under shortages, surviving faithfully. However, victories thrive quietly, neighbors comforted kindly, coats repaired faithfully, potatoes stored carefully, lullabies sung lovingly, kitchens glow kindly, companionship shelters hearts beyond shortages faithfully, candles glow patiently, radiators exhale comfort, silence softens burdens, and night gathers weary spirits kindly toward rest tonight. Blankets cradle shoulders warmly, pillows accept burdens gently, and dreams deliver landscapes abundant with laughter, bread, and sunlight beyond shortages faithfully. Morning whispers gently, slippers shuffle faithfully, kettles whistle warmly, porridge thickens steadily, rehearsing another cycle of survival together kindly. Tram bells echo faithfully, passengers cluster quietly, windows fog instantly, companionship binds strangers, weaving invisible resilience faithfully, bakeries open slowly, queues shuffle patiently, steam curls kindly, and bread's arrival warms families faithfully. Factories roar loudly, sparks scatter brightly, repetition steadies workers, persistence engraves dignity beyond slogans faithfully. Tea soothes weary hands, biscuits crumble softly, laughter restores courage kindly, posters boast proudly, yet households keep victories tenderly, coats patched, potatoes stored, lullabies sung, neighbors supported faithfully. Evening hums, stairwells softly, supper perfumes kitchens, companionship warms hearts tonight. Candles lean gently, radiators hum patiently, silence blesses corners faithfully, blankets gather shoulders kindly, pillows cradle burdens softly, and dreams draw orchards abundant with peace faithfully. Morning breathes lightly, kettles whistle proudly, slippers shuffle patiently, porridge steams faithfully, rehearsing survival once more today. Tram bells toll faithfully, passengers sway silently, windows fog instantly, companionship weaves survival kindly, bakeries breathe relief warmly, queues shuffle patiently, bread appears glowing faithfully, factories roar tirelessly, sparks scatter brightly, repetition carves dignity, tea restores trembling fingers, biscuits crumble gently, laughter refreshes courage faithfully, portraits beam proudly. However, victories glow gently, coats mended, potatoes stored, neighbors comforted faithfully. Evening gathers stairwells softly, supper perfumes kitchens warmly, companionship strengthens walls kindly, candles glow patiently, radiators hum softly, silence soothes weary spirits faithfully, blankets comfort shoulders warmly, pillows accept burdens kindly, dreams paint gardens abundant with laughter peacefully. Morning greets rooftops faintly, slippers shuffle patiently, kettles whistle proudly, porridge bubbles faithfully today, tram bells echo consistently, passengers cluster quietly, windows fog instantly, companionship sustains survival faithfully, bakeries hum gently, queues stretch patiently, bread distributed warmly, gratitude endures faithfully, factories thunder loudly, sparks scatter brightly, repetition engraves persistence truthfully, tea warms tired hands, biscuits crumble gently, laughter restores spirits faithfully, posters boast loudly. However, homes hold victories, coats patched, children comforted, neighbors helped faithfully. Evening settles, stairwells gently, Supper scents linger warmly. Companionship shelters families kindly. Candles flicker softly. Radiators hum gently. Silence comforts hearts tonight. Blankets gather kindly. Pillows cradle burdens softly. Dreams weave abundance peacefully. Morning rises softly. Slippers shuffle faithfully. Kettles sing warmly. Porridge steams steadily today. Tram bells toll faithfully. Passengers cluster silently. Windows fog instantly. Companionship sustains courage kindly. Bakeries breathe warmth steadily. Queues shuffle patiently. Bread appears faithfully. Factories roar loudly. Sparks scatter brightly. Repetition sustains survival daily. Tea refreshes tired hands. Biscuits crumble softly. Laughter heals courage faithfully. Murals beam proudly. However, victories thrive humbly. Soups stretched, coats mended, lullabies sung faithfully. Evening whispers, stairwells gently. Supper, perfumes, kitchens warmly. Companionship comforts hearts tonight. Candles glow patiently. Radiators hum steadily. Silence reassures weary spirits kindly. Blankets hold shoulders softly. Pillows cradle burdens warmly. Dreams scatter peace faithfully. Morning breathes faintly. Slippers shuffle faithfully. Kettles whistle proudly. Porridge thickens steadily. Tram bells echo softly. Passengers sway quietly. Windows fog instantly. Companionship carries them kindly. Bakeries open slowly. Queues shuffle faithfully. Bread warms spirits kindly. Factories roar faithfully. Sparks scatter brightly. Repetition sustains dignity today. Tea steadies trembling fingers. Biscuits crumble gently. Laughter restores strength faithfully. Posters declare loudly. However, homes preserve truth. Children lulled, coats patched, neighbors helped kindly. Evening hums, stairwells softly. Supper perfumes kitchens warmly. Companionship strengthens walls faithfully. Candles tilt gently. Radiators hum patiently. Silence guides hearts peacefully. Blankets comfort shoulders kindly. Pillows soften burdens gently. Dreams weave orchards abundantly faithfully. Morning whispers softly. Slippers shuffle faithfully. Kettles whistle warmly. Porridge steams gently. Tram bells toll faithfully. Passengers cluster quietly. Windows fog instantly. Companionship sustains courage kindly. Bakeries breathe relief softly. Queues shuffle patiently. Bread appears, glowing faithfully. Factories thunder noisily. Sparks scatter brightly. Repetition engraves persistence daily. Tea soothes tired hands. Biscuits crumble softly. Laughter restores spirits faithfully. Portraits beam proudly. However, victories thrive gently. Soups stretched, potatoes stored, lullabies sung faithfully. Evening settles, stairwells kindly. Supper perfumes, kitchens softly. Companionship shelters families tonight. Candles glow patiently. Radiators hum gently. Silence blesses weary spirits kindly. Blankets cradle shoulders softly. Pillows comfort burdens warmly. Dreams scatter abundance peacefully. Morning brightens rooftops gently. Slippers shuffle faithfully. Kettles sing warmly. Porridge bubbles steadily. Tram bells echo consistently. Passengers cluster silently. Windows fog instantly. Companionship strengthens endurance kindly. Bakeries open gently. Queues shuffle patiently. Bread distributed faithfully. Factories roar loudly. Sparks scatter brightly. Repetition engraves dignity daily. Tea refreshes weary fingers. Biscuits crumble softly. Laughter restores courage faithfully. Posters boast loudly. However, households preserve truth. Coats patched, children comforted, neighbors supported kindly. Evening hums stairwells softly. Supper perfumes kitchens warmly. Companionship comforts hearts faithfully. Candles flicker gently. Radiators hum steadily. Silence soothes spirits peacefully. Blankets comfort shoulders softly. Lows cradle burdens kindly. Dreams carry hearts toward orchards abundant with laughter faithfully. Night settles across Moscow finally. Silence covers courtyards tenderly, and families drift gently into sleep, dreaming together of futures abundant with warmth, bread, kindness, and endless peace faithfully.